All right, episode 18, a little later for you. Hey, look, life happens sometimes, and you just adjust and you roll with it, and that's exactly what we do here on Dan Mathews and the Animals. I'm Dan Mathews. He is the animal. He is Matt Maltepes, and Matt, I mean, between me on Astros postseason coverage, which, sadly now, although I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are not very sad about it. Regardless, you know what? We can deal without them. But, don't have to worry about that anymore. But, life happens sometimes. And sometimes you got to do a Tuesday evening edition of the show. Thursday, as scheduled, coming your way. But still, we got a lot to talk about from week 8 in college football. It is coming down the stretch. It's coming to a close, man. Don't make me sad here.
Yeah, no, it's coming to a close. It's been a pretty interesting season, not as to be expected, in my opinion. But, you go with the flow, and we have a lot of changes, a lot of teams you thought were going to go all the way, or at least close. They ended up, falling short. I mean, it's not over yet, but they seem to be, not on the right trajectory. So, we got some teams still in the mix that are interesting, and we got to see what Michigan does, some of these other teams.
Yep, for sure. I mean, especially too. I mean, Michigan. They've got their own news, but not only that, also too. Once they get into the meat of their schedule, taking on Penn State, and then of course the end of the year, the game against Ohio State. Let's start first with the two teams that I just mentioned right there: Penn State, Ohio State. We finally got Ohio State's second test of the season, the first test of the year for the Nittany Lions of Penn State. They just could not get any real offensive attack against Ohio State in this one. Ohio State able to get enough offense for this one as they were able to take it 20-12. Now, I took Ohio State -4. I remember you had said if it got close to that 3, so I said that's a good enough number. Plus, I'm just not buying Penn State as an offense. Over-under in this one was 45 and a hook. So obviously, if you took the under, you really enjoyed it. I think that probably if you are going to skew over, you were hoping that Ohio State was going to be able to take care of that, but Penn State not able to do their end of the bargain. So the under was the winner in that one.
Yeah, Ohio State was a side. They always were. I mean, we give it out on Twitter for free at TCK_experience. So follow us on Twitter. But I mean, Franklin always comes up short, and he did it again. Ohio State won 20-12. They won the first down battle, 22-15. Buckeyes 6 of 16 on third down. But what was most impressive was they held Penn State to 1 of 16 on third down, which is, an amazing defensive performance. They had 4 sacks. Drew Lauren completely dominated them. Ohio State OSU put up 360-plus yards while they held the Lions to 240 yards in total, under 200 passing and under 50 rushing. On top of all that, they dominated the time possession battle. I teased in the original recap last week. Then I told you exactly why I loved them last week, Thursday. So if you took that Ohio State ticket, you can cash it. Penn State proved to be a fraud once again.
Yeah, I mean, now Penn State is going to get a chance at retribution when they bring Michigan to Happy Valley here. I think that's coming up here either next week or the week after. It's coming up here pretty quickly as we get into the month of November. And, the college football season, I think, Matt, is a lot like what we hear about in major golf tournaments on the PGA, is that, Saturday is kind of the separation day, and then Sunday is really when it happens. So I guess if you're going to look at it from that perspective, November is really the Sunday of college football, like it is on the PGA Tour. That's when teams really start to find out just how good they really are.
Yeah, and what's interesting? We have Penn State versus Michigan, right? If they beat Michigan, then Michigan beats Ohio State. Well, that's an interesting scenario right there. And you talked about it on the previous episode, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
For sure we will. The other game that was a huge one on Saturday afternoon was the one right after that. I mean, you want to talk about stacking action on Saturday. This was a good one to have because then you go from a high number of people watching the Ohio State-Penn State game over to Tuscaloosa and to watch CBS and to watch both Alabama and Tennessee in this one. Bama, at least at the beginning, if you took Tennessee +8, boy, you were feeling good about that one. And looking at this Alabama offense, you're probably thinking to yourself, I'm not really feeling good about their chances to be able to get back into this one. It might be 2 years in a row for Tennessee, but That's when the trap door falls out. Nick Saban does it to us all the time, doesn't he? Where he has it where you think, oh, this Bama team, they're dead. And in the second half, they bleed you, they crush you, they kill you. And that's what they got back to. I mean, this looked like an Alabama team from the early 2010s, the way that they won this game of just bludgeoning Tennessee in the second half as they take it 34-20. I said I took Tennessee. You took Bama -8. So that, sir, is a winner.
Yeah, Alabama won this game 34-20, and I'm not going to lie. That cover was looking tough, but they ended up covering the number. This was one of those games where Alabama, they lost the first down battle, the yards battle, but they ended up winning and covering somehow. I mean, a big reason for that was Tennessee was 0 for 3 on fourth down, despite Alabama fumbling the ball and throwing an interception. I mean, Alabama ran the ball, and they just kept running it. They had 42 attempts for 138 yards. That helped them win that time possession battle as well, but when they did pass the ball, they did some damage. I mean, Moreau only had 14 completions, but on those 14 completions, he averaged over 10 yards a pass. And of course, the big thing was the fumble at the end for touchdown by the Volunteers is what gave Alabama the cover. And there was a lot of bettors out there that, had a huge sigh of relief like I did.
No, absolutely. I mean, you got to love those backdoor covers right there. And that's pretty much what you were able to get right there. But look, it's just like postseason baseball. Nobody asks you how you won. They just ask, did you win? And in that case right there, you, sir, are a winner. Let's go to the night slate of the action that was of the 4 games we covered for Week 8 in college football. Again, I'm Dan Mathews. He's Matt Maltepes. Dan Mathews and the Animals right here on YouTube. Don't forget, like and subscribe to the College Kids channel, and also to tell your friends about Dan Mathews and the Animals. But one of the games on Saturday night was one kind of like we were just talking about with Tennessee and Alabama here, Matt. It was looking like Duke might have an opportunity to not only cover, who knows, get a little crazy and think that Riley Leonard and Mike Elko and the crew would be able to go into Tallahassee and win. But Florida State did what they did to Duke, just like they did to LSU early on in the season. Second half was their friend. I'll give more of my thoughts on that here in just a second. But what were your thoughts about this game on Saturday night that saw the Noles win it 38-20?
Yeah, they won 38-20 despite starting the game down 17-7. They ended up covering the spread as well. FSU beat this team by about 10 first downs. They were more than 50% on third down compared to Duke's 33%. And Riley Leonard, I mean, he had an absolutely horrible game before he got hurt and taken out of the game, hurt his ankle, I believe. And the Seminoles defense, I mean, they held the Blue Devils to 76 yards passing, 8-22, and 3.5 yards per pass. And they even made Leonard throw an interception. So, I mean, Florida State outgained Duke by more than 140 yards. And they flat out just won this game. And they dominated the second half and got them the cover.
Yeah, they absolutely did, as they are able to take this one. In Florida State, I mean, I think we have been hinting at them being for real for some time. But I think another reason to believe in this team right now is the way that they take over games in the second half. I mean, that wins, like I said, in November. Then you get into December, and then even a chance in the college football playoff. Look, the way that this team is playing right now, I don't think enough people are talking about Mike Norvell's team. I think this is a team that might be the total package when it comes to offensive and defensive football. And they've done it too, the way that it's supposed to be done in the modern age of college football. I mean, a side note right here, we saw Clemson lose this weekend to Miami. And then afterwards, Dabo Swinney making jokes about, oh, I might be on suicide watch. I think there's going to be a lot of people at Clemson in Dabo's ears saying, hey, what Mike Norvell is doing down at Florida State, why aren't we doing that here? Get over yourself with the transfer portal and start using the damn thing.
Yeah, you got to change it up a little bit, if it's not working. Florida State, you talked about them being a second half team. And honestly, if we look at the first game of the season against LSU, we saw that game. First half was 17-17 or 17-14, I believe. And then you saw the final score. They completely dominated that second half, and it started the first game of the year, and it's been consistent throughout the whole season up to this game. And Florida State, it's hard to argue if you're saying they're not for real. I mean, this team, they're playing phenomenal, and they might be there at the end.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes at the end. Speaking of at the end, that's a good segue by you, because it was an ender by Utah to be able to win that game at USC as they take down the Trojans 34-32. I mean, just a comedy of errors for USC. What have we talked about all year long with Lincoln Riley's team? That defense is an issue, and it continues to be an issue for them. And I think you finally saw Caleb Williams on the sidelines just be like, I've given everything I can to this team, and continuously being let down. I mean, that right there looked like to me a guy that at the first chance, and it's not talking about the guy, I'm saying what he should do in this case is as soon as you get to a point where this season might no longer be competitive enough for SC, which they probably still have a loss or two on their schedule left the rest of the way. I think they've still got Oregon. I think they've also got Washington somewhere in there. I got to go back and look at the schedule. But if you're talking about an 8-4 football team at that point, I mean, he's a competitor. He wants to be out there. He wants to play. I think Caleb Williams soon enough needs to say, I've done enough. I can't do this to myself anymore, and I can't risk my future for this group.
Well, yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams, every single week you see that USC offense, and he puts up points and puts up numbers. But that defense lets up even bigger numbers, and that was the case again. This game, close one, score of 34-32 with Utah winning. Utah had 23 first downs compared to USC's 18. USC's defense is so bad, they let up 482 yards to Utah. The same Utah offense that ranked as one of the worst teams in the nation in yards per play before this game.
Without Cam Rising.
Yeah, they ran for 247 yards on the ground. They passed for more than 10 yards a pass. I mean, I had the under in this one. We went under 56 in the game, closed around 52, 51. But it didn't matter. That's how bad that UC defense was. The bottom line is they've been abysmal. It's always unfortunate, missing on an under in a game where you absolutely crush the number, but crushing a number doesn't get you paid. Only winning does. So.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I mean, and in that case, too, I mean, like I said, Alex Grinch is as good as gone. I almost think that Lincoln Riley needs to go ahead and make the move right now as just a save face, if you will. Maybe go ahead and show your fan base like, hey, see, I'm serious. We're moving on. Because if you didn't feel that way after the way that USC not only lost in the Pac-12 championship last year, which opened the door for Ohio State to be able to get back into the playoff, but also, too, the way that they lost to Tulane in the Cotton Bowl, where a lot of people might say it's a useless New Year's Six bowl game. It's really not that huge of a deal. No, it is a huge deal because it's the way that you lost and it's the way that you play on that side of the ball. I mean, I think that probably that's going to be the case for Lincoln Riley. As soon as they play their final game this season in a bowl somewhere, it's going to be enough influential people there in Southern California coming to him and saying, hey, defensive coordinator, make a change and make a change now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a consistent issue that we constantly see. And, your actions, there has to be consequences. So I could easily see him, eventually you got to put a stop and an end to everything. And we'll see what happens. I mean, it's very possible.
For sure. All right, well, we got another great week of games. Easy enough for me to say, right? Getting off the clip, even thinking about how exciting this weekend of games is going to be. It's the annual Georgia-Florida game, or for you Gator fans down there, the Florida-Georgia game. Equal opportunity here. That's a real deal, by the way, there, Matt, what I just said. When I worked in Atlanta, I learned that the hard way. I had called it in a report, the Florida-Georgia game. The amount of people who lost their minds, the fact that I even mentioned it as that. And I've understood, too, if you're down in Florida and you say the Georgia-Florida game, then people down there say, hey, whoa, wait a minute.
Hold on.
So, yeah, that game in Jacksonville always is a game that has a lot of attention on it, plus a few other games, unless you got some surprises already up your sleeve, sir.
Nothing yet. Pay attention to the next episode. That's why you guys need to subscribe and watch out for our next episode. All the free moves you need, all the winning moves you need, more importantly.
There you go. The man said it best. Like and subscribe right here at the College Kids channel. I'm Dan Mathews. He's Matt Maltepes. It's always great to be able to catch up with you all. Thursday, regularly scheduled programming right there, that midday taping, and then, of course, coming your way there right around lunchtime for you to be able to enjoy for the rest of your day. So once again, I'm Dan Mathews. He's Matt Maltepes. We are Dan Mathews and the Animals, and this has been episode 18.